G'day YouTube. We're out in the backyard today. It's a beautiful sunny spring day here in Sydney. We're starting to get some really nice warm weather and the plants are taking off in response. Look out there, got flowers popping up everywhere, new pictures coming, seed pods forming, and everything just looking fantastic. But I won't go through that today, I'll leave that for another video. Today I thought I'd do a video on potting mixes and why I use different things for different plants. I've been having a few discussions with people recently. I brought a few plants out to show and might show a couple others. They're in some different mixes. But it seems 90% of what you see online, everyone says just use sphagnum, moss and perlite. And as much as I don't personally like it in my conditions, it just does not work for me. It just holds too much water, compresses. I am a heavy waterer, so partially my fault as well. It gets slimy and algae. If I've got plants in it outside, it dries way too quickly, and then it's really hard to re-moisten. So personally, I don't use it for my plants at all. But if you're looking for a no stress, easy mix for your new plants, that is a good option. The options I have, so here you see I do have sphagnum moss. I do use it for top dressings of indoor plants, not Nepenthes, but your indoor tropicals. Yeah. So my main mix that just about everything is in these days is variations of cocoa chips. So this is being a fine grade, and that's perfect for most of your plants. With small plants, we all know perlite. I'll mix in some small perlite on small plants. If it's getting up to a larger plant, you know, something like this Boschiana Fusca Crossvici. So if I can get the light on it, it's an absolutely beautiful plant. That's where I'll start stepping up to this super coarse perlite, just because it gives better aeration for the roots, and the big mature roots can take quite a lot. Below that, so your seedling types, there's a nice truncata cross lavicola I made. It's starting to get on a bit of size. I sowed the seeds for that in cocoa peat, which we'll talk about more shortly, which is basically the same product, just ground right up. It's super fine, and I believe it holds a lot of moisture, but it doesn't compress. No matter how much you water it, it'll stay somewhat airy. So that, again, I'll mix with the fine perlite to sow the seeds on, usually a top dressing of the cocoa peat. I promised I will do a video on Nepenthes seeds soon. I'm literally still just waiting for a few seed pods to ripen for me to harvest, and I'll get that going. Some larger plants, they grow more epiphytically, so your truncatas, you might be able to make out my monster hiding back there. And you know, that's up into a 500ml pot now. It's about 50 litres in that pot. So yeah, it's getting some real size. Stuff like that. I will use larger cocoa chips. You see here, big plants, big heavy root system, and it just gives plenty of air, but it also holds plenty of moisture. You might be able to see. Yeah, that's been sitting out in the sun for a while, and still you can squeeze the water out of it. And that was just off the top of my truncata pot. Now, the other mix I've moved on to using is a mixture of Aadama. These are two different grades of Aadama. This is the hard one and the extra hard. I have found the hard breaks down a little bit over time with lots of watering. So I've started mixing equal parts hard and extra hard with pumice. It's a volcanic rock. It's a lot nicer than perlite. It doesn't float up in the mixes like perlite can. And Kanuma, which is a type of Japanese pumice, I think. Now, all three, essentially three of these products all do offer some minor mineral to the media and for your plants. But that's enough about the actual media. Now to why I use what. This truncata lavicola seedling I put in it's a fine cocoa chips, cocoa peat and a fine perlite, and that just holds plenty of moisture around the roots. So at that size they're going to have a small delicate root system, really fine hair-like roots. So you want to make sure there's plenty of moisture there and it doesn't dry out too much. Stepping up to larger plants, they can take drier media and some dry periods between watering. You see this gets quite a lot of light, this one, but it's just beautiful colours on the leaves and pictures. But then also I do find the cocoa will suit some plants better than others. Anything that grows epiphytically, your truncatas, your veitchii, stuff like that, cocoa chips and perlite is a fantastic mix. Then when you step over, you got stuff like this peltata. If you move over to stuff like Raja, Attenborii, Paloensis, a lot of the highland Philippine species, they all grow in ultramafic soils. So that's where I think the Aadama based mixes do suit those really well. You will find some other plants such as Lolii, which I believe predominantly grows epiphytically in the wild, also suits Aadama really well. It absolutely loves it. Oh, sorry about the backlighting. So there is exceptions to the rules. I have read recently a lot about the Sumatran highland species, so your Jacquelinias, your Jambans, your Aristolochoides, Inimus I think would fall into that category as well. These plants are really suited to sphagnum moss. I still don't use it. I probably won't use it unless I am really having trouble finding a substitute. Personally, I think that the cocoa peat will make a great substitute for those plants. Most of mine are currently in my Aadama based mixes, and so far doing really well. Most of them have live sphagnum top dressing. Adds a little bit of humidity. I find the plants enjoy it. It looks great, so I'll keep doing it. One problem I will say with the peat, well, not so much a problem, but an added bit of effort is, so the cocoa peat is, and cocoa chips actually, you do need to rinse it to get rid of all the salts. So what I do, I've got a 60 litre bucket, the bigger version of this, but you could use the same. I then put a 50 litre pot or a 500 ml pot. They come in a compressed brick in the pot. Drop that in the bucket and fill the bucket up with water. And I'll let it sit there and soak for about 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Might be longer depending if I need it. If I don't need it, sorry. And I did check originally using a TDS meter. It does drop down quite rapidly after the first week. So yeah, you want to remove as much of those salts, anything built up in there. The other thing I've recently been reading into is buffering your cocoa products. They can draw, I think it's calcium and magnesium out of the plants. So I found a bit of information on using, they actually make just calcium, magnesium, nitrate fertilizers. You mix that into the water and you soak it for 12 hours and then it's ready to use. Personally, I did the 12-hour soak and then followed it with a second 12-hour soak in RO water just to flush a bit of excess out. I think the calcium nitrate and magnesium nitrate fertilizers are aimed towards cannabis growers, so I figured flushing a bit of it out, but hopefully it shouldn't drain my plants as much. And I have seen it in a few plants, but a quick fertilize can usually correct the problem. I think that covers most things I use. As I've got the two different courses, perlite, extra drainage. I do find the more drainage you can get while still keeping your plants moist, the happier they're going to be. All my pots will drain straight through, pour out. You will see I do keep saucers on them sometimes. If they're starting to outgrow their pot, I'll put a saucer underneath, let it catch a bit of water. It can draw up a bit more of it before I and just extend the time before I need to repot into a larger pot. I've touched on anything. If there's anything else you want to know, or if there's anything you think I've missed about different potting mixes, what's better for different plants, and then please let me know in the comments section, or contact me on Instagram or Facebook if you have any other questions. Thanks. Bye.